Welcome to Speaking in Spoons with your host, Christina Brookman.
Welcome to Speaking in Spoons, a chronically ill podcast where we can embrace the challenges of chronic illness with courage, humor, and a spoonful of resilience. I'm your host today, Josh Lamm, and together we'll navigate the ups and downs of life chronic journey. Let's dive in.
Nice.
So, could you both share a bit about your personal journey and experiences with living with a disability?
Um, I'm Christina Brookman, a producer and host for Speaking in Spoons. And I have Ehlers-Danlos, POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, Sjogren's, hemiplegic migraines, or MUMS. We're kind of teetering between those two diagnoses. Both are like a rare stroke-like type of migraine. And then I also have fibromyalgia and PTSD. And because I deal with a lot of chronic disorders and illnesses, things fluctuate a lot. I have good days, bad days, good moments, bad moments, good years, bad years. It's kind of, I never know till I wake up, and I kind of just have to go with what the day brings me. And I'm lucky to have found a friend like Nate who kind of experiences it too, and other friends who I can call friends who understand what it's like. I'm gonna put you in that category, Josh. So thank you.
Well,
I'm passing the tong to you, Nate. Sorry.
well, I mean, I've only had my one disease, multiple sclerosis, for 15 years, and it's looked very different. Like when I first got sick, I didn't really affect my life that much. I mean, it sucked, and I think the treatment when I got diagnosed was worse than the illness at the time. But now it's very much here and very much impactful of my life. Like, I went from an active, 20 something to like a housebound 30 something in the course of 15 years. So it's been an adjustment to me. And I think my life has taken on very different, I don't know. I mean, I didn't ever have a career path, but I had like things that I tried to do. And like I had this time where I was doing computer animation, and that kind of went down when I got sick. And just, I don't know. And I was doing like a very into martial arts for a while. Like when I met Christina, I was very into martial arts. And when everything hit the fan, I had to give that up. And I tried
You're
going to
both
school.
physically active, I think, like because you were big in swimming at that point too, and I used to swim and dance and do movement, and now we're both homebound, can't drive. Listening to you kind of help. I realize maybe I didn't describe as much, like too, that loss of, like, I had a whole other life, and then it's just, now I'm in a completely different place.
I mean, just that my MS hasn't always looked the same. And
Yeah.
for a while, it wasn't very noticeable. And I had to, I got in a lot of trouble because I wouldn't tell people. And girlfriends were very upset about stuff like that. Like I had one girlfriend who, who said I was committing a lie of omission by not telling her. because I guess she saw like a future together, and when you get that kind of news, it makes it not quite the same. I don't know. She also kind of sucked. So, but it was like, it just was it changed a lot, and then it changed me a lot, and now here I am, and I'm not sure how I got here 15 years later, but I don't think I would be here if it hadn't happened. I don't know what I'd be doing, but I definitely don't think I would be doing this.
Yeah, like they
Yeah.
say, you're not your disability, but your disability also does have a huge, you can't separate yourself from it completely either, because it does really impact your life and your future and your career, your relationships, everything. And I'm not necessarily in bad ways, but it changes what the possibility is. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
You both touched on something that is pretty common to me too, is being not as active and being more homebound. And a lot of people don't understand it, what it's like to kind of feel like trapped in your four walls.
Yes.
And like people act like you're like choosing this lifestyle sometimes. Do y'all feel that too?
Yes.
I mean,
Well, I think at the beginning for me, there was even a lot of family disbelief. Um, you know, uh, not my mother, because she's always struggled with chronic illness, but other family members, and there's still family that doesn't get it. And people don't understand. I think it's something that's very, and in people's defense, it's really hard to understand until it happens to you. Like even my mom, who's very supportive and understanding, um she she knew that not being able to drive was hard and limited, and being housebound was emotionally hard for me. But she recently had knee surgery, so she couldn't drive until this past week, actually, and she felt liberated, and she had gone through huge depression, because you really are trapped in those four walls, and you rely on people coming to you and helping take you out, or bringing the outside world to you. And people get caught up in their lives, and they get people have their own families, they have things going on, or they assume your family is doing that for you. But that's an awful burden to put on one singular family, to just always be there, always be the one providing entertainment and rides and the outside world to their disabled, or chronically ill family member. It really needs to be a community thing.
yeah. No, I mean, but I mean, I guess my family, I just don't think I would have understood until it happened. Like I'm a second generation of sick people. So my dad had multiple sclerosis. I'm the second generation of having multiple sclerosis, and I watched him to like degrade as an adult, like from moving from walking with a cane to a wheelchair to bedridden, and I saw that progression, but I didn't get it. Like I mean, I got it, but I didn't know what it was, and now I'm kind of starting to get that, and I just it's depressing, and it's also very, I don't, it's very, I've noticed that this whole experience has made me more introspective and really trying to understand what's going on and why is it going on. To just, there's a lot of questions that medical people couldn't answer, family couldn't answer, the universe couldn't answer. So I'm just constantly on the search for meaning, I guess. So I mean, that's what being trapped, I guess, does to you. It forces you to go even more within.
It's
Honestly,
forced me to really turn to online. Like I have a lot, like most of my friends are online, and we have like Zoom hangouts. Nate and I will do that, but also like I'll have Zoom girls nights with people. Zoom movie party nights, watching horror movies together and laughing at each other over reactions, or crying together, or and that's what the podcast has brought to me too, is just meeting other people going through similar or different experiences and being able to connect with them, or people that are passionate about advocating for people like us. And then I feel more supported and less alone. So the internet has really given me an opportunity to escape my room.
Yeah, virtual footprints definitely gotten bigger. Like I'm not doing a lot of crying, but I'm on like some Zoom groups for MS and stuff like, so that's been cool. And I'm in a book club, like a virtual book club. So it's just there's like a lot of, I don't know, I don't think I would do that kind of stuff if I wasn't stuck in my house.
Yeah.
See my therapist online. I see my health coach online. I see everybody's online. Like people ask me if I want to meet them in person. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Let's meet virtually. So this little phone has become my doorway to the outside world. Next question.
Yeah, the internet has made it real easier to find groups that are going through the same things as you. And that's so important.
Yeah.
When you find like-minded people going through the same things, because so many times, like going out and doing my volunteer work, you see that people feel so alone sometimes, and so disconnected from other people. And I tell them all the time, you need to look out there, because you're not alone ever. There's people out there going through it too, just like you are.
Yeah, and it's just hard to see at first, because um it's just you're dealing with so much, and if you're at home and stuff too, it makes you really have to do search out for those connections.
Yeah. Find the groups that kind of get, because I just have a very different like approach to my illness than some people. Like it just, you find groups and you're just like, it's not the right, I don't know. There are groups that complain, there are groups that do things, and I like the groups that do stuff, and I think that's
Yeah.
more helpful to me. Like groups that are more proactive, like not like trying to cure their illness, but just like doing stuff that I think is like having game nights and doing like reading groups and like doing like, I don't know. I have one like partner who says she's going to do like some of the stuff that I'm doing, and I appreciate having that sort of, companionship on the journey. So that's
Yeah.
the sort of stuff I like about the virtual groups, is it lets you find your people.
And I do think, like what you were talking to that about that, Nate, like in the support groups, you have to be careful, because there can be a lot of negativity, and that can bring you down.
Right.
I like to join them mostly to meet people, and then I kind of step back. Like I've met people in the groups, or I'll learn information and stuff from other people, but I don't, if you stay too long, some of those, it depends on the group. Like yeah, you just have to find your people.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the group or just there's just some people that just love to complain, like about
Yeah.
thing, like not even about their illness, just about like, I went to the bank today and people were so mean to me, and I don't know. It was just like sometimes people just get on these like tirades about how awful the world is, and you're just like sitting there listening to them. Is like, yeah, okay, sure. I don't know. But there are other times though that people do talk about uplifting stuff and being positive, and like just my book club group is like that. My men's MS group is like that. Um, I found some friends, like I'm part of this group on Facebook called Raw Vegan Heroes, which I think it's about like a raw food lifestyle, but there are people on there, like it's that attitude, that proactive attitude that kind of it draws that kind of person. So I like that. So you find a lot of like um similar spirited people that we're not necessarily on the same path, but we have the same goals. And I like that.
Yeah, that's really important to find. So, how has your disabilities shaped your perceptions on life, and what positive aspects have come from your disabilities that you discovered?
Um, hmm, that disability really changed the trajectory of my life. And I I say this over and over again, but I think it's very true that it kind of really taught me what love is, because I think, you have this conceptualized idea most of your life, but for me, when you're disabled, when you're chronically ill, the good people that really love you and care about you stay in your life or come into your life, um, and will be there, your ride or die people. And um, it, and then the other people, the toxic people, or the people that don't really love you, leave. And it's hard, but it's I guess good for everybody. um it gave me it made me start paying attention to people outside of myself more, and their experiences, and learning from people's experiences, and really, I never really cared about material things, but I really became, because it teaches you what's important, you know, like having a roof over your head, having food, like when you're fighting for certain things, you know, the other stuff. Because I remember an interview we did, Nate, and you were talking about like a family member who was upset at this family member, and it really didn't matter, because what mattered was the family spending time together, right? And I think being sick gives us that perspective. It's changed my perspective and my outlook and my focus, I guess, on life. And what was the other part of your question? Sorry.
What was a positive?
Focus.
Yeah,
Oh,
what
okay.
was the positive aspect you discovered?
I think I really love service work. I've always loved service work. Like I used to be an actress, and teaching artist, but what I really loved was working with children, in outreach, and giving them a voice, letting them create and devise their own things, tell their stories. And I love that my experiences through disability, like it's changed my trajectory into advocacy and service work. And I think that is a silver lining. And also, maybe the biggest one is, my mother and I were not close, for many, many years. And when I became disabled and was unable to work, my my husband left and left me with my mom. And we I didn't have money. I had to find all new doctors and resources while I was disabled. And my grandmother died right around the same time, so we got really close. And now we're just really, we developed a relationship that I'm not sure we would have been given the opportunity to have. And I'm really, really grateful for that. Yeah. And I met some great people. I've met some of my best friends.
I mean, it definitely changes the course of your life. I mean, it changed. I think it gave me direction a little bit. Like I didn't care about a lot. Like it was hard. Like I did like certain things, and a lot of that stuff had to go. But like it gave me this sort of like it gave me. I hate to say it gave me some identity, but it did make me different than a lot of my friends, and I think I appreciated that part of it. Like I don't appreciate the being disabled part, but I do appreciate the perspective it's given me. Like it's very different. Like I'm not living the same life as many of my friends because of this. And so I think I'm coming at this a little different. Like in that sense, it's a gift because I have, like, it did lead me to this podcast. It led me to a lot of the work that I'm doing. It's put me on this trajectory for something. Like, I don't know where this is going, but I think it's going somewhere because it's kind of focused me on something that I think a lot of people are dealing with. Like, there's this underground world of sick people that I don't think gets a lot of the attention that it should. And I think it's a real problem. And I think it's a problem that people are just kind of ignoring. And I'd love to shine some light on that and get some real attention to it.
Make some positive change. And you've
Yeah.
become, I've noticed through the years, Nate, you've become really philosophical, and I love that about you. And um, I think that's fun to be around, and it makes me think more
Well, as
too.
far as that introspection, I had to be positive. I had to find positivity. And I think getting, discovering gratitude, I think was very powerful. And then just the deeper you go into how you see yourself and how you see the world around you, the more you appreciate the little things. And then that kind of
Yeah.
translates how you see the bigger things. That
Because
life
if
is
you don't
just,
start appreciating the little things and find gratitude when you've got all these things that I think you use it, and we were talking about with George Dennehy, like that he was given like a death sentence, but he made something really positive. Like you really, we both are trying to not live in the dark place, and trying to use positivity to. I had a thought.
Well, you're on a good thought because one of my questions is what specific hobbies, activities, or strategies have helped you maintain a positive mindset?
Talking to my friends. Nate and I usually check in with each other every day. He did this wonderful thing through a period. He was sending me not gifts. What are those things? The little
Bitmoji.
um yeah, Bitmojis. And he would send me like a good morning Bitmoji every day, which was great. Like I missed those Bitmojis.
I had a
Um
friend that got me into that, so I started just sending them to, like, I was sending them to you, but I was also sending them to like my mom, and I was sending them to my, like, I was
now I
sending them
don't
to,
feel special, Nate. Just kidding.
but I just was Bitmojiing everywhere. I was like, Bitmoji, Bitmoji,
Bitmoji,
Bitmoji.
Bitmoji, but it was nice. It was nice to wake up and have a little Bitmoji and know that like a friend was thinking of you and wishing you a good day, and that that would give me a good start to my day. And I would like when he would go silent, I'm like, oh, this is not good. Got to check on Nate. How's he doing? But I do that, with other friends that I have too, and he'll do that with me. So I think
Well,
like the support system, like finding that, but also my fur babies are my everything. I can't have children, so I they have kind of become my hobby, like spoiling them and watching their happiness makes me happy. Like we do photos with Santa every year, and they get their Christmas presents, birthday party. Like I'm that overboard, doggy and cat mom, but it gives me happiness. There's also, I believe, I could not meditate at all before because meditation seemed like a very like intimidating concept. Um, and I'm can be very like my brain kind of go, and I'm like I can't calm down my brain, but I've what I realized later is and Nate was saying you're meditating, Christina, that some things that I do because when you're in a high level of pain and you have to take yourself somewhere else, or like someone had told me about the Calm app, and they actually have it on HBO. So like people in my life when they're around me, if I can't put it on, like an ex of mine, he would immediately put it on that app, and know to do that. My caretakers would know to do it. And it's just beautiful, serene images of nature. And like you know, a fan, Idris Alba, one of my Hollywood husbands, reading, like a story about, not a story, but telling you about water or about the universe or sand and how sand makes fire. And it's very comforting and relaxing. And it would get me into deep breathing and in touch with my body and just go to a better, calmer, happier, pain-free place. So that's something I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do that.
meditation I refer to as like the easiest, hardest thing you'll ever try.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like all you
but
do is
it's
breathe in and out, and just try not to focus on anything else.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I think there can be many, many things that can be considered meditation. Um, like when I used to swim, swimming laps was very meditative to me because just counting the strokes, feeling the water, like I would stop focusing and thinking on things. I was just kind of being in the moment and just feeling the water on my skin, and it just took me to a different place.
yeah,
And that was meditation. And I'd always been so intimidated by it because it's like, how do I stop thinking? But Nate was reassuring me it's not about stopping thinking. I mean, you're better to speak to this than me, but he was like, you're already doing meditation, Christina. And I was like, oh, that's why those things are so calming to me. Laying in my bathtub with feeling the water around me and just closing my eyes and breathing, like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
Well, I mean, meditation, you can do moving, you can meditate when you're moving, or you can meditate when you're still. But the whole thing that ties them together is just being present. That's the meditation, that you're present, you're focusing on your breath, you're being in the moment, you're noticing like the world around you. You're not in your own head thinking about the past or thinking about the future. You're thinking about now. And that's all meditation is. It's just being here, like what we're doing now. I could call this a meditation because we're present, you know?
So, what are some of the hobbies, activities you do, Nate?
Well, yeah, I do meditation. I take a very proactive approach to my MS. So I need to do stuff. So I juice every day. I do the enemas every day. I do some kind of exercise every day. And I work like I'm trying to do book publishing. So that's something to do. I do this podcast. I need stuff to do. So um that's basically just like I've tried to keep busy. Keeps me from, going to the dark place and thinking about my past or whatever, just like trying to stay focused on getting better.
Yeah, I call it outrunning the storm because you always get that dark cloud just trying to come get you.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
well, I mean,
Uh,
you never outrun the storm because it's you.
that's true.
You
You can
are,
try.
yeah,
You,
but then you can remind yourself you are the storm, so there's nothing to be scared of.
yeah, yeah. Doesn't make the storm suck less though.
You're
Yeah.
right about that.
Yeah.
What are some common misconceptions about your disabilities that you'd like to address or dispel?
Start me?
I thought you were always starting. You want me to start this one? Common misconceptions about MS. I don't know. Like, I guess people don't realize that it's like a chronic illness and that you're just sick, but it's actually something that just takes away from you over time. Like when I got diagnosed, everything, my disability was very invisible, and now it's very visible. And it's just like that didn't just happen. It just is like it slowly takes away when you're, just being alive. And it's just, I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of misconceptions there are about my illness. I guess that it's not progressive. People don't understand that, or that it's just
Do they even
I
know what
don't.
it is?
Yeah, I guess people don't know that it is a autoimmune illness that attacks your myelin sheath and degrades your nerve function. Like people don't understand that. Like I'm not like I can't walk because my leg doesn't listen. Like it's just the nerves just aren't there anymore. So that's why I'm having trouble walking. But it's not like it's just not that it's not like a laziness or like a like it's not like I don't have the energy to walk. It's just that my leg doesn't like I'll fall over because my body just doesn't have the physicality to do it.
It's like it's not communicating.
Yeah, and it'll I don't know, like it's I don't know if it's just not as strong. It's not like I'm not using it. It's just my body, even my body sort of questions my leg. Like it's just I'm not sure about this leg you got here. Like we're just gonna rely on the other leg because we're not totally sure. Like I don't even think about it. My body just doesn't want to use my leg. Like it knows.
I I get that fear of the your leg and like walking or moving because of
It's not
I
my
think
fear. Not my fear. It's my body's fear. Like I'm not afraid of
yeah,
using the leg. It's just my body doesn't like subconsciously it doesn't want to put weight on it.
I'm afraid of falling. Like
And I'm not
um
falling. I've fallen a few times. Like it's not scary to me. I don't want to fall, but I'm not afraid of it. Like falling is part of the game.
yeah, I'm very lucky I have not gotten hurt yet from falling. I think some of that is the hypermobility and my husband, like when we taught kids together, he always told people round things roll and hard things I forget the whole thing. I just always remember round things roll. So he's like, if you fall, you always want to be round or relaxed and not rigid. So I kind of put that in the back of the mind whenever I fall. I mean, and I'm lucky when I fall, it's usually because I've gone paralyzed. I think that's a big misunderstanding or misconception about my disability because I have these migraines. And when I tell people I'm having a migraine, they don't really understand because it's not like regular migraines that people get. Um, it's a migraine where it's like having a stroke every time I have a migraine because it'll start with drooping of my mouth like a stroke. Um, and then my right hand goes weak. And then my whole right side goes weak. And it'll get to the point where I completely droop down with my right side. My mouth and my eye will even kind of start to spasm shut, like it droops and spasms. And then if it gets really bad, my left eye will as well. So I can't talk, I can't see, and I can't use my right hand. I can't lift my right leg if I'm standing. Like I thought I had narcolepsy at first because, the dog, my old service dog, she'd bark and I just dropped to the ground. Um, and like my dad, when he was staying to help me at one period, he would cook and something burnt on the stove. I smell it and immediately drop to the ground. So I knew it was like sensory, but and at first they were saying it was pseudo seizures for years, and they said, psychological pseudo seizures. But then my POTS doctor said, no, it's your POTS, it's your dysautonomia causing these episodes. But then it wasn't until a year ago that they discovered it was migraine. Um, but I think there's a big people don't understand because when they see me or they see me on the screen, like I look fine. It's kind of goes to your point too. Like Nate, like people will see you, you look fine. I'm bubbly, I'm an extrovert, so I get energy from talking to other people. But what they don't understand is the amount of energy it took to get ready, or that, like, for days I'll be unable to do any, like, if I go out, which is rare, um, you're seeing me on my best of best moment, and it took a lot to be able to get there. And when I go home, I'm more than likely going to collapse for days. And and I think a lot of people can identify with that, people not understanding. They're like, oh, well, you look good, you're out. And so they don't realize, even though I'm asking for people to come and visit, I'm asking for people to call, I need help, I need people to drop by meals, like having a disability, having a chronic illness, it's not going to the hospital and having surgery. It's not like a 1 week, 2 week thing. This is a lifelong thing where I'm needing help. It's not going away. It's progressive. It's not going away. I do have a doctor that's working to try to make things better, but you know, I need the support of my friends and my community, and I don't have family in Richmond that can help. So it's just me and my mom. And when people don't help or stop by, I mean, I've laid in my bed and not, before I had a caretaker, there was a period I didn't have a caretaker for like 3 months. I laid in my bed. I would go weeks without showering because I couldn't, because I need assistance sometimes to shower. Because I can't use the right side, so I wait till I'm strong enough to be able to do it. I had pee in the pot by my bed that sat there, building up for 3 months, because I couldn't lift it to empty it and clean it. And my mama couldn't, because after these migraines, I immediately have to pee, and I'm too wobbly to be able to make it to the bathroom. So I've peed my bed, and but I also use the bedside commode. And people don't realize, when I say I need help, I genuinely mean it. Like, if you see me looking okay, I'm not okay. I'm just trying to make the best of a lot of really bad stuff. Oh, and I have Ehlers-Danlos, and the version I have is not rare. I would like to put that out there, because there is a lot of misinformation about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hypermobility form, and hypermobility is the most common form of Ehlers-Danlos. And people, it's gotten put under the category of being rare, and I think that intimidates doctors and leads to doctors not learning about it, being scared to diagnose, being scared to treat, which causes a lot of problems for patients. But it is not rare. My migraines are rare, and some other things that I deal with. I have some congenital malformations because of my Ehlers-Danlos, more than likely. But the Ehlers-Danlos form that I have is not rare. Other versions are rare, but not mine.
Do you find that you have a lot of trouble in the medical field because of your diagnosis?
Yes. 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 I've had I was denied by I was homebound, and I still needed to be able to see the doctor. And there are programs where doctors will come to you, like when you're homebound. And the one of the ones in town denied me because they said I'm too complicated. You need to go to this other hospital and use their geriatric program, which I love to hear when I'm like 41. Um, but I just giggled, and it's whatever. But I did get approved by the geriatric program, but unfortunately, I was too complicated for them. They didn't know what to do. And I mean, they didn't know how to order me wheelchairs. They didn't know. And I got a social worker, but the social worker, I was so excited to finally have like a social worker. but a medical social worker, but she didn't know how to help me with half the stuff I needed. I still had to figure it out on my own. And the doctors see Ehlers-Danlos, they see POTS, and they say, well, you need to see someone who specializes in that. And you need to find, go to that doctor. And unfortunately, in the state that I live in, there is one, and actually in the country, there are only, like, I think she said 5 or 6 PCPs that specialize in Ehlers-Danlos connective tissue disorders. So that is a rare specialty. And I can't travel to John Hopkins in Maryland every time I need to go to the doctors. I've considered moving up there for that, to make sure that I have specialists that also understand, because that's the big problem I'm having right now. I now have a PCP who specializes in it, but what I found is the other PCPs would get so intimidated by the Ehlers-Danlos and the POTS that they wouldn't look for other things. And now she's looking at mitochondria, like she's getting genetic testing for me. People miss, I have it looks like I have a rare liver disease, and I have to see an autoimmune rare liver disease. And they're sending me to a hepatologist who I see next week, and I'm going to need a biopsy of my liver. But I tested positive in my blood work for a lot of stuff because I pushed for stuff. Hadn't pushed, I wouldn't have gotten an ultrasound of my liver because they're like, oh, you don't need this. And then the doctor was shocked when it came back and showed that I'm stage 2 of fibrosis of my liver. And hepatic disease and not fatty liver. Like she's concerned that doctor was concerned about an autoimmune thing. And turns out I tested positive in blood work for one of these autoimmune things 10 years ago. But the rheumatologist never told me because I wasn't symptomatic at the time. So, okay, that was a long story of me saying, yes, I have a lot of problems in the medical community. And a lot of it is just there's a lot of misinformation out there. And there is I have had doctors, I know a lot of people that have a lot of the same stuff than me that haven't had the successes I have had because they're not as comfortable talking to their doctors that I am. But I found that if I don't talk to them and if I don't do my own research and say, no, I'm not talking about WebMD, like I'm reading actual medical reports and stuff and trying to stay up to date, then they'll, but sometimes they don't listen to you. Sometimes they don't take you seriously. But my opinion is if you have a doctor that's like that, you need a new doctor. And so that's what I do. I look for the doctors that will be a team with me and include me in that process, because the one I have now is very much like you are one of my harder cases. You are one of my more complex cases. And I was shocked. I thought I was just being told that because nobody understood Ehlers-Danlos, but they were getting tunnel vision by the Ehlers-Danlos and POTS and intimidated by it. So they weren't looking at anything else. Yeah.
What about you, Nate?
I would consider myself having a healthy distrust of the medical system. Like I don't think I just don't rely on them for a lot. So when they come through for me, I just give them things to do that I know they can do. Like I get lab work with them. I get, what do you call it? Like MRIs and CAT scans. Like I know they can do that. So I don't expect more than that. Like I don't expect a supreme understanding of what's wrong with me. I don't expect them to be able to solve me like a Sherlock Holmes. Like I'm not. I don't go to like I got my diagnosis and that was enough. Like they don't need to. I don't think. I don't think they're going to find. I don't know. I I rely on them for what I know they can do, and I don't expect more than that from them. I don't expect them to be, gods about medicine. They're just people,
Yeah.
so I don't expect like
And they can't know everything. But I
or
do
really,
think like
yeah,
you were very fortunate to get diagnosed so quickly. Like my
I
aunt, it
mean,
took years to get diagnosed with MS.
yeah, but at the same time, like I think I got diagnosed before I even like there was no question of my diagnosis, and
Yeah.
there was no kind of like, oh, are you sure you have this? And like, so I have this diagnosis, but honestly, I don't think there's not, it's more of a diagnosis of a lack of any other diagnosis. It's just it's a diagnosis of elimination. You don't have
Yeah.
this, you don't have this, you don't have this, so you have this. And so it's not, I don't know. I just think honestly, I think everyone that has diagnosis is sort of a snowflake in the sense, like, because you see a lot of people fixing this, doing certain things, and I've tried those things, and they haven't given me that same sort of results. So you think, well, maybe I don't have the same thing that they have, and but that's not the medical system's fault. Like, it's a very limited system, our medical system. Like, there's disease diagnosis, and it's I just don't. It's just I think it just keeps getting bigger because the system itself is not something that's built on any kind of foundation. Like you notice in Chinese medicine, there's a limited amount that something can be. And it's based on these principles of yin and yang and five elements. But we don't have that here. Medicine is this like it's this system based on observation. And so it's that's why you end up with all these myriad of diagnoses because there's no fundamental system that it's all based upon. Like you can't, it's just nothing. It's just, I see this, so you have this. And it's just like, that's why you have diseases called like ear, nose, mouth disease or like Parkinson's or autism, or just they're all named after guys or named after things. And it's just, it's limited in the sense that it's just, there's nothing concise about it. And so, that maybe that's why I have a little bit of a distrust to it because it's just not, it's just because I'm so in my head about it, like that just as a system, it doesn't make sense. There's no
I mean, there
foundation.
is stuff that like I I have a mistrust as well, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And I wholeheartedly agree with you on a lot of that. But there are things that they can do a blood test, and like this shows that you this is going on. There's other things like the autism that's a little bit more, you know, subjective. Or is it yeah, subjective.
Yeah, just the tests themselves, the lab tests are objective, but what I've noticed is there's no foundation to our medical system. It's just it's a like it's but that's because there's so many disease names. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's just gotten out of control.
And
Like
people
it's
aren't
just
talking to each other anymore. I think that's like
well, the
because there's
special
so many specialties.
that's a whole different issue about
Yeah.
specialties, like about the extreme amount of what specialization. But I think that comes out of the sense that there's no limit to what is disease and what is the name, like the specialization of disease. You know,
Yeah.
like my disease itself, there's three different types of my disease, and I don't think that that's a coincidence because there's just so much specialization. Like we just there's this saying in Chinese, out of the one there's two, out of the two there's three, and out of the three there's 10,000 things. But then I think we're stuck on that path of breaking things down, breaking things down, breaking things down. But in the Chinese aphorism, that 10,000 becomes three, three becomes two, three becomes one, and it all comes back to the single. And there's no sense to put everything back together. And that's what
Interesting.
I think our system lacks. Our system is great at breaking things apart into the quantum, of what they are, but it lacks the ability to bring it all back together and tie it together. And that's why there's like a specialty for every single part of your body, but there's no, like, if you have a disease, it's not a disease of the heart. It's a disease of you as a whole. Like, it's a cardiovascular system, and that system affects your liver, affects your spleen, it affects your kidneys. Like, it's not just that you don't just have heart disease, but in our system, as our medical system as it is, they only focus on that one part of you because we break things down into the 10,000 things, but we never bring everything back together.
Yeah, they never want to put you back together as a whole. They just want to break you down to the broken piece they're looking at.
Right, but that's not their fault. That's just how the medical
Yeah.
system is. It's about breaking things down into their very minute, but it's not about tying everything back together.
To
And
the
that's where I
whole
think
body, the whole experience.
it kind of falls apart. It falls apart in the sense that it doesn't fix you as a whole. It fixes that part. Like, if they'll treat your cardiovascular disease, and then you don't have the cardiovascular disease anymore, but now you have kidney disease, and it's just like, and then and then you go see your kidney specialist instead of your heart disease doctor. It's just like
A never-ending cycle. And I
right.
think we also in this country, unfortunately, as a society, view doctors as very godlike, like that they have the answers to everything, or they should have the answers to everything. And like you just said, they're not. They can't. Like, there is no way you can go through medical school and know every single thing out there. But the unfortunate thing that I have come to experience is there are a lot of doctors, or people in the profession that also view themselves that way, and are unwilling to question themselves. One of my favorite doctors now, like, will be like, "Oh, that was my mistake," or "This was this department's mistake, and I apologize for that." And like, my jaw dropped when that first happened. I was so grateful, because you just don't hear that. You just don't hear that hubris. And I think doctors that have that hubris are more open to think outside of the box and look at the whole picture, like you were saying, to talk with other specialties. The other thing, like, I had a doctor, this whole Doctor Death series. Like, I literally had a Doctor Death. I had a cervical C1-2 fusion about 12 years ago, because I was told I had cervical instability. And I do have cervical instability, but this doctor told me and hundreds of other patients the same thing. He told me and my ex-husband that if I were to ever get in a car crash, my instability was so bad that I would get an internal decapitation and I could die. And hearing that, I was 28 years old, and that was terrifying to hear. So we made the decision to get the fusion. And I was told he was the person to go to, that there were two people in this country that knew how to do this surgery, and particularly with patients with Ehlers-Danlos. And I had done PT, I had done things. And at the time, like, I look back and I'm like, well, why didn't we do, like, injections, a lot of certain things weren't offered at the time, so there is that. However, he did lie to the medical board about his credentials, the medical board for the state. He lied about a lot of things, and he was doing faulty practices. Um, when I got to Virginia, I told them, I'm having neck pain. Everybody wants to refer you back to the original surgeon because they don't want to touch somebody else's something. Well, the problem with that, my surgeon was wanted by the FBI for medical fraud and malpractice, and had fled the country to Pakistan. Medical fraud, malpractice, Medicaid fraud, Medicare fraud, like all of this stuff. And there were all these lawsuits going on. And this had just happened like a year after my surgery, basically when you're doing the follow-up. Like, I'd done my 6 month and it was going okay, although I was having a lot of swelling, a lot of pain, like all of this stuff. Well, it took 10 years for somebody to finally listen to me. And I kept having it, and it took me going to multiple people I was even to when it was so bad, you know, a year ago, I went to the ER. I was told, well, you have fibromyalgia, so this is just muscle skeletal pain, you know, go. And she didn't even do an exam. She's just like, you know, go home, take an ibuprofen, Tylenol, all of that stuff. And I was just shocked because it took me like hours to even get to see her. And she's like, oh, well, you know, so then I tried to get in with a spinal person, but you have to see the nurse practitioner first, that works underneath, and she looks at, you know, my MRI and my X-ray, and she's like, well, you know, it looks fine. It's probably just muscle skeletal. I didn't realize you have to have a CT because my MRI had so much hardware in there. You can't see like what's going on with the neck, and it even says that in MRI, you know, hardware blocking most of the view. So like logically, I would think, why aren't they trying, like why aren't they even thinking it could be something else? Because I was in so much pain. I was bedbound. I couldn't, like, it was awful. Well, someone finally ordered a CT. I had two loose screws in my neck. And he's like, but you're young, so I think we'll just keep an eye out on it. I'm like, this is loose screws in my neck. Like, that's a bad place for there to be loose screws. Then I went to another surgeon. He told me, you know, you're probably going to need to get that removed. But let's try ablations, things like that first. Well, then I started having these stroke like migraines again. And the ablation doctor's like, I'm not touching you till you get clearance from the neurologist. And the neurologist is like, I'm not giving you clearance to do that till you get all of that crap out of your neck. So I found a surgeon, and he's like, I think you need the surgery. I think it's damaging your neck. It could damage it further. We need to get it out of there. He's like, however, I will only do the surgery if you acknowledge this may not solve your pain. You will more than likely be with pain for the rest of your life. And I said, I acknowledge that. I understand with it. For my safety, let's get it out. So I did the surgery. And turns out I had 6 loose screws in there. 2 of which were so loose, he's like, I could have taken them out with my hand. He was terrified during the surgery that that they were going to hit my spinal column and paralyze me. So he's like, it's a good thing we got those out there. And I was really, I'm still like, I'm eternally grateful that he took a chance and did a risky surgery on me. Because, but like, then we did scans, and like my neck, like I had a shoulder doctor. He's like, well, I have good news and bad news. And the shoulder surgeon was like, you do have good news is you have a tear in your left shoulder. And I was like, that's the good news. He said, but it's really small. And I would expect that at your age, particularly with a connective tissue disorder, and we don't want to do surgery because it's just going to re-tear. And I was like, okay. He's like, but do you have a spinal surgeon? And I said, yeah. He's like, because I've never seen a neck as bad as yours at your age. And it's just heartbreaking to know I had to fight for 10 years for doctors to listen to me about my pain. And still, when I tell, like, I recently had a doctor, you know, when, you know, I was letting them know my history and that I'd had a bad surgery, and they're like, well, the other thing is the fusion didn't even stick. It didn't even stick. So, and I didn't even need it. Turns out my base of my skull is fused to my first vertebrae. He's like, so your head was never going anywhere, Christy. Um, so he lied to me. He took advantage of my fear of my disorder. And I trusted him. He had a dog in the office. I was like, oh, he's a good person. He's a dog person.
Trusted him because
So
he had Dog in his office.
I
That
know.
would
I
that
clearly
would be a
I
red flag.
can't
That would be a
spot
red
bad
flag for me. Like, why does this doctor have a dog in his office?
she was a really cute, fluffy dog, but like now I question my doctors a lot,
Yeah.
and I feel like, this is a consumer industry. It's my body that I have to live with.
Yeah.
If it's a service industry. Like if they're not treating me the way that I feel like I should be, if they're not answering my questions, if they're have bad bedside manner, like
Well, I mean, that's what you have to realize about our medical system is it is a business. It's not designed. It's like you pay someone to do something and you're paying for a good, you know?
but in that sense, like if I pay for a good at Target and the good sucks, I get my money back. Or I at least get treated with respect. And the same is not with the medical industry. In
Well,
fact, in Virginia right now, we have a cap on how much you can sue doctors for, and it literally apparently only pays. And I do think people are sue crazy. In fact, I didn't participate in the lawsuit because I didn't want to take money away from, children's hospitals and things like that. The actual, like the bad guy fled the country. But I just want awareness that this happens, and that is happening. But I like in Virginia, like that cap will only pay for the lawyer's fees of bringing a case to trial. But a lot
yeah.
of cases do get dismissed if they're frivolous and things like that. And like the reason they're bringing this bill in Virginia to try to raise the cap is that a family's baby died because a traveling nurse overdosed their child, like gave the wrong measurements of a medication, and the child. I also do think that goes to state how horrible the medical industry is for those within the medical industry. Like nurses and doctors are working insane hours. So, of course, they're going to make mistakes. So why isn't OSHA involved somehow in making sure that, they're protected so that they're not overdosing people and botching surgeries and misdiagnosing people, because it's like McDonald's, 15 minutes in and out.
Well, I mean, there's a lot wrong with the system. Let's just say that, but it's that it's doing the best it can with
Yeah.
what it has, and that I think that's something to be said about it. That it's just you can't expect like you can't expect a mouse to not be a mouse. Like it is what it is, and that's why it is the way it is. It's just like you can't treat going to the doctor the same as buying something from Target. Like you're it's you no matter
It's
you can't get the
important
money
than
back
going to
that is your
Target.
you can't get you're treating your body and like there's no amount of money that will be able to compensate you for messing your body up. So
No.
I would exercise caution and not get second opinions and not always and
Yes.
have a healthy sense of distrust.
Yes. 100%. Like that's what I learned from this is
Yeah,
is
but you
we
had to
need to
learn from
have.
it.
Well, yeah, unfortunately I had to learn from it. But that's what I'm saying. This was a mistake I made too. In it, but I did listen to I listened to like the experts internationally in the country that are recognized who said this is the person to go to. So I
Right.
trusted them. That's kind of hard to ignore. And like, it's at Children's Hospital. Like I worked for like it's Children's Hospital of anyways, it doesn't matter. My point is Dr. Durrani, FYI, if he ever comes back in the country, um, of Ohio, took advantage of. My point is, have a healthy distrust, like Nate said. Get multiple opinions.
Well,
Advocate
I
for
can
yourself.
understand
And
it's a
doctors and
business.
nurses aren't God. That's all I'm saying.
But
Yeah.
it's just that it's a business. It's not an altruistic like it's not saintly or godly. It's not good. it says it's not good or bad. It's just a business.
Well,
You
When you
know,
make something for profit, it kind of, makes it a different animal, a different beast.
I mean, but even like I think the concept of being for profit, like even if it's non-profit, it still is money based. Like it's
Yeah.
just that's how capitalism works. Like you're not going to find a business that doesn't need money. So it's just that has a particular sway on what that business does. Like you look at like the WHO or you look at like it money influences no matter how good you are as a person. It's just that's what
Well,
the
and I think
Western
because
world
of
is.
that, and because of people suing, doctors are very defensive of each other, is also my point. And that's
Yeah.
what led to it taking so long for anybody to listen to me as a patient because they're like, oh, she's just complaining about her surgeon. And I'm like, no, something is seriously wrong. And that is my call to doctors out there. Like in Richmond too, once you've seen one neurologist, you're not allowed to get a second opinion. You have to stay with that neurologist. Like they have an agreement with all of them, that once you see that they will literally dismiss your referral, so I like when I had a bad experience with a neurologist and I tried to go somewhere else to get a second opinion, I was denied. So I advocate, and I broke through that. But not everybody knows that it is okay to fight for yourself and
I
to
didn't know.
question.
Like you're
Huh?
not allowed to get a second opinion. I've never
Not in
heard of it.
Richmond, no. I
That
don't
is
know if that
news
has
to me.
changed recently, but at least like for years, like they wouldn't let you get second opinions because of the business agreement between all of the neurologists in town, which
Jeez.
is not healthy that is not good for the patients
Well,
because
but you got to understand too, like doctors, like they're tied. Like doctors have their hands in so many pots. Like it's just, it's icky. Like I just,
prevent people from second opinions, Nate. Like
yeah, I don't think that's messed up. Like I don't know how they organize that. That just seems really kind of
it's
warped.
sketchy. Yeah,
But
very
then
sketchy.
when you realize like a lot of the second opinions are the same opinions because they're all owned by one big
But
organization.
they're not. Once I started seeing different people, I started getting different opinions,
Mm.
particularly since I have weird and complex things. It is good to get multiple opinions.
No, I agree with that. I think you should get a
I
second
think that's
opinion,
also why it took me 10 years to get a proper diagnosis
second
of
opinion, third,
migraines.
fourth opinion. I still
Yeah.
haven't found a good opinion, but I'm still looking for opinions. Like it's just everyone's got their own concept. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing about was the funny thing about multiple sclerosis is everyone's got their own shtick about what it is. Like there's one lady that talks about it being a mitochondrial disorder. Another person talks about it being
Really?
like a pharmaceutical, like having to do with like nerve cell death. And I don't know. Like I've seen a lot of different opinions on what is
Yeah.
MS and why is MS, and just I mean that's why I ended up going to Panama for this stem cell treatment because I thought maybe that would be the answer. I still don't know because it hasn't been enough time, but just weird. It's just weird.
All right, we're going to switch some gears here.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. That was a long. I don't even remember what the question
Nate and
was.
I can talk forever about that subject, I think.
so, what inspired you to start a podcast focused on disabilities?
Ah, well, Nate had done because he's a doctor of nutrition and has been working on and is very passionate about nutrition. And I think like a couple of years ago he'd started like he did a podcast and he was um and I thought that was really interesting. And then when I became bedbound a year ago, um when I was dealing with all of this neck pain really bad before I had the surgery and I was having the paralysis, like before I started being medicated for the migraines, I was getting paralyzed every day. And I still get episodes of it like every day, but it's not like I'm paralyzed all day, every day, like 7 days a week kind of thing. And so that's nice. Uh, but I was like, I got to do something. I got to feel, I had to leave grad school where I was trying to be, because I keep trying to go back to work. I've been on disability for about 8, 9 years. I've been unable to work for about 11. And I keep going back to the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and I keep getting my case closed due to disability. And so I was trying to be a medical social worker so that, kids and their families with disabilities or terminal illnesses, wouldn't kind of go through the things that I had gone through. I wanted to help them. But uh, my body said no at the time. And so I was like, I have to do something. And we'd always joked. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if we did a podcast about dating with disability? And we would like joke about names like disabled dating, or I don't know, and just share all the horror stories of the experiences that we've been through. Not that we want to put all of that online, but um, yeah, I always thought that was funny. And I was like, well, what if we did, like, I really want to start a podcast about life, what it's really like to have life with disability, and give like a platform for people to share their stories. And then, we bounced around ideas, and we had another person involved at the time. We bounced around ideas, uh, and then like names and things like that. And that's kind of how it got started.
Yeah. I mean, so I got into podcasting. I'm not quite sure. I might have heard it on a podcast about how easy it was to make a podcast. So I downloaded the app and I started just ranting about things and putting it in episodes. And I liked doing it. I liked making the logo and I liked making the podcast, but I hated the editing part of it. So all my episodes were like really long and really uncut and just me kind of just talking for like an hour, and I got kind of bored with it. I had struggled finding people to interview too. Like I was never good at that, like talking with people and stuff. With Christina's particularly great at it. Like we get lots of guests. I just
Thank
don't
you.
like, I'm not extroverted. I'm introverted. So I don't get a lot of energy out of talking to people. So I don't talk to a lot of people. So it's just, I don't know. And
But he's so
Christina,
good with like designs and things like that. And
yeah, I love that part of it. So I made the logo. Like Christina had the idea called Speaking in Spoons. And I was like, that is a really great name for a podcast. I never would have come up with anything like that. And so I ended up making the logo for it. And then we just kind of hit the ground running
yeah,
with, and
it
now
was
it's like
fun.
season 3. Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I want dancing spoons or something. Like the spoon thing comes from the spoon theory, which is a woman who had lupus, was trying to explain what it's like to live with a chronic illness to a friend who didn't have a chronic illness. And she gave her, like, she tried to walk her through a day. And then she's like, spoons, here are all these spoons, and spoons are your energy, but you only get like 10 or 20 spoons a day, let's say. And she would charge her for spoons anytime she wanted to do something. So the woman's like, wakes up and wants to take a shower. Well, literally getting out of the bed, 2 spoons, want to take a shower, 4 spoons, and just keeps charging her. And then by the end of the day, the woman has 2 spoons left. And it's like, well, you can make dinner for yourself and your family. You can wash your your hair. Like, here's the things you can do. You could go into tomorrow's spoons, but then you're starting tomorrow out with less spoons. Um, and the woman's like, how do you do this? And she said, it's a challenge every day to kind of manage my energy and everything. And thought that's I've always connected to that. And I post that story a lot. And my uncle, he had a stroke. And when he was recovering from his stroke, he saw that I had that post and read the story, and it really connected to him and the recovery from the stroke. And I would post I love Etsy, and I post this jewelry of a necklace with a spoon that I'd seen that was really cool, that had stamped the words from Shakespeare, she be but little, but she is fierce. And I was like, this is awesome. And he taught himself how to stamp jewelry and used that as practice. And then when he finished, he mailed me the spoon necklace. And I started crying because I was really moved and touched that he would do that. So that's the personal place for me, but also I love plays on words. So like speaking in tongues, speaking in spoons, but also you're speaking in spoon theory language, and then like the chronically ill part, I just thought was funny. Was that your suggestion? I don't remember. I love that part.
Hey,
Chronically ill.
I think I came up with the tagline because it needed a
Yeah,
tagline.
because we wanted to put like it's about
Yeah.
the chronicness of stuff.
I know. I love that part too.
Yeah, chronically ill.
How do y'all choose topics and guests to have for your episodes?
That's all, Christina.
Oh, me.
I have no input on it. She's just
You
talking to
have
today.
input.
Just show up. I just show up and we talk to people.
Well, we have a spreadsheet online where we kind of like
Oh yeah, we did
suggest
come up with
ideas and things like that. And I pull from that, and I'll ask, Nate, like, hey, what do you think of this idea? And he suggests things before, but I go out and I really like meeting people. So I'm on LinkedIn and things like that. Um and so I just follow everybody that I can. And and I post things, or I respond to what people are posting. And recently that's gotten people to message me. But I also message them, if I think it would be a topic or a story that would really benefit our audience. I just think of people that I've met online through support groups and conditions that and I've met through this journey a lot of people with disabilities, or people that have family members or friends with disabilities and chronic illnesses. um and and recently I went to a disability convention we had in town and I got to see Josh there representing NAMI, which was cool. And I was only able to do this because I have a caretaker. And she took me, and she also has an MSW background. So for her, it was exciting too. And we could share that experience, but also like we went around to all the booths, introduced ourselves, got people's information. I've had people contact me from that. I still need to contact people. I've been dealing with health issues. I've been in the ER since then, and, just paralysis and stuff. So it's, but I was able to go that day, and I felt a little bit like my old self. I felt like I was contributing. I felt like a purpose. I felt like an adult with independence. It's hard when you live with a parent when you're our age, like Nate and I have to do. We need to right now, but it's, I'm looking at HUD, I'm looking at other options. It's just hard. But if she hadn't been back, I went paralyzed at the event. So she put me next to Josh. So I was with a safe person. And then she went around to the booths and got information for me. So yeah.
Yeah, the expo was awesome. I can't wait for
Yeah,
next year.
me too. So
Who
it
knows, we might be
continues.
coming live next year from the expo.
That would be cool. Yeah, it's just constantly connecting and meeting people, and which I love to do. I love to meet people and learn from them and hear their stories, and that's something I've kind of always been I'm an only child, and um I have a very small limited family, and family's very important to me. I come from theater, and I've missed the connection you get with shows where you kind of always have a family, and so that's kind of what this is. Yeah.
Yeah.
What challenges do you face in producing a disability focused podcast?
Ooh. I think the challenge is that we are disabled. Like it's a benefit, but it's also, you know, it's
Coordinate.
exhausting. Yeah, coordinating. Like, I mean, how many times have we had to cancel an event because, um, I'm paralyzed, or, something's going on with Nate. We went on hiatus for like 3 months last season because
Yeah.
of my health. So it's just, that's kind of difficult. Like it is a benefit that neither of us can work. So we are very flexible around guest schedules, but
Yeah.
then I'll have to cancel at the last minute or something, or they have to cancel because of their health issues, and then we have to reschedule. But I think it makes us more, they're more understanding to it needing to be canceled and rescheduled, and likewise on our end it's also physically taxing. Like I
But
have to
we
just,
our persistence, we get that, we get it done. Like
we get
we
it
may
done.
have some hangups, but we do eventually have our episodes and get
Yeah,
things together.
the editing just causes me a lot of pain, so I'm hoping to teach people to kind of help with that. But also, I like the last episode, I did that a lot in pieces and just kept saving it. And that helped a lot because, it hurts my neck and my shoulders and my back and it just causes pain. Um, Having my hands and doing it. And then, but luckily I can do that part in the light. The interviews, I have to have the light on and kind of escape my dungeon, which I love so much.
Can you share a memorable story or guest that you had on your podcast?
You want to start, Nate?
I mean, was her name Cheryl, the woman who was paralyzed? I thought her
Harry,
that
yeah.
when she was a lawyer. That one I really was inspired by, because I just didn't think that sort of thing would exist for someone like her. And
Yeah.
I'm not as bad off, but I definitely don't feel like there's marriage and a career in my future in that same sense. So that was nice. I appreciated that episode. I appreciated her perseverance and her ability.
Um, it's hard because I love so many of them. Like I feel like our special topic guests, I feel like I learned so much from each one, and that is exciting for me to learn something new. It was really great having Nate and I just did an interview that's going to come out later, where we had a guest who is actually a lawyer at the federal level for disability, which I didn't even know existed. Like after you appeal so many times, you can go back and sue the state, and say no, like, and they can decide whether or not. Anyways, you'll have to watch the episode, but she gives so much great information, and she's just, a wonderful, passionate person about helping people with disabilities, particularly people that have been denied. And I just learned so much in regards of statistics for that I didn't realize, particularly regarding fraud and other things. Um, that I think people will be shocked and amazed and also validated for when they hear those that are applying or have been through the process. And it'll be good for other people, naysayers out there, to watch. Uh, Guest wise, I really, wow, like in regards to personal stories, I really loved Georgia's interview, which was our season finale for season 2. I've loved all of them. LaRue was very touching for me, learning about his story of waking up with his leg amputated, um, and the shock of that and the grieving process of that. But then also we had a gentleman with no arms, and learning about his adoption process and going back and getting to visit his adoptive mother, and being able to thank her actually for giving him up for adoption. And honestly, not to be cheesy, but you, Josh, your story hasn't come out yet, but we interviewed Josh about his story with chronic back pain, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I actually cried because um, I identify so much with that, and it was in a way validating to hear the things that you said, and also your positive outlook and how you keep pushing and trying to do things, and now what you're doing with NAMI, your spirit and stuff I really connected with. So I just like meeting all these different, I could just keep talking about all, I just love our guests. I feel like we build a community. We have a super fan, Joe Beth, who will message and raves about the show, and it means so much to her, and that she's learning a lot and connecting to people's stories. And then I felt I learned a lot about her story with traumatic brain injury. I'm gonna shut up now, but I just love all of
I mean,
that.
you kind of led into my next question um, is can you share any upcoming topics or guests that
Oh,
you're excited for listeners to hear? But you already started down
I
that
do have
course.
one. Can I say one one more? Will we? I mean, there's many, many more. In the month of February, it's all going to be about love, and we've got the Dateability app, which is the dating app for people with disabilities, which is cool. But also, uh, there was a one that touched me very much. We've now become friends, and she's asked me to be on the board. Her organization is now a nonprofit organization where called Wish Come True, where her child has a rare disability. She has hemiplegic migraines, the stroke on the side of your face, and also a rare disorder that causes dystonia in different parts of the body. And that's where, parts go paralyzed. And she gets cervical dystonia where she can't swallow. So they've had to put in a feeding tube. And this disorder is rare and can also be fatal. And it no I met her in a support group for hemiplegic migraines. I reached out to her. I was like, I had no idea children, like young children, experience what I experience, and even worse. And that broke my heart. But what I love about her is that she's taken this horror, and she, as a parent, you feel helpless, you want to help. And her way of helping her background is theater and education, so she uses her connections in the theater community and has people, she writes scripts and creates fairy tale videos or superhero videos for children with it started with specifically this disorder. Now they've expanded their nonprofit, and it's for all children with all chronic disorders, disabilities, terminal illnesses, all of that, to bring some joy into their life. And that speaks to my heart. I think that's so I can't wait for people to hear her story, her episode, because I think it's just an incredible thing that she's doing.
What about you, Nate?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm excited about the month of love. I tried Dateability out. We're having, I got kicked off of Dateability. I don't want to go into the detail of it. Like, it wasn't anything. I unintentionally wronged them without meaning to. So
You were trying to be funny.
I was trying to be fun. Well, so I made my profile picture Richard Nixon, and I put a bunch of pictures of Richard Nixon. Then I wrote in my bio, if you like my dick pics, send me a message. And I don't think Dateability appreciated that humor, so I got kicked off the app. And
Oh,
I was gonna put a bunch of pictures of different dicks, like Dick Van Dyke and Dick Cheney, and but I never got to that because I got
it's like
booted off.
classic name. So for
I
single ladies out there,
I was trying
um,
to be funny, and it fell on the wrong. I think they probably have an algorithm that sorts for that. Like they saw that there was a picture of Richard Nixon, not an actual person, so they probably booted me because of
yeah,
that.
or just saw a dick pic and like, yeah,
Or
Yeah.
saw the dick pic. Yeah, yeah. I don't. It wasn't.
we can ask them at the interview.
Yeah, we'll ask them about it. Like I just I apologize. I didn't think about it that it was going to be taken poorly like that.
How do you think individuals without disabilities can be better allies and supporters?
Mm.
Listen to people's stories, learn, do your own research too, because I think I have been when I was dating, and I'm on pause, but there was a couple guys here or there that would take the time to research what I had before the date, and I was so impressed and touched. It meant a lot. And when I have friends that do that too, so they'll kind of better understand um what I have, and also that they ask. I like when people ask questions, um because for me that means they care. um and yeah, I just say open yourselves up, and um and contact the people you love, check in more.
I mean, I guess people can be allies just by being aware that someone's ill. I don't think there's a particular thing a person needs to do. Like, because everybody's living their own lives. I don't think that you need to, contribute to their life, or I don't know, just not being judgmental of other people when they're sick. I think is a what I would think people should do as an ally, just to be
Yeah,
aware that that person's sick and to not judge them for it.
Yeah, I think it's in the small things, like just checking on somebody.
Yeah, that probably. I mean, that helps too, because
Yeah.
yeah,
sometimes you get in this place and you don't think anyone's even aware that you exist anymore.
yeah. Don't assume that they've got support. Be that support. Don't be scared to offer support. Just call and check in. Even if it's just a little text, hey, been thinking about you, wanted to let you know I'm here. I mean, if
Yeah,
more people did that for me, I would have less bouts of feeling really isolated and low, to be quite honest.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate when people randomly call me. I just
Yeah,
know that someone thinking about you.
feels good.
Are there specific topics related to disabilities you wish were discussed more openly in society?
Invisible disabilities. I think that's becoming a hot topic, but I think we need to talk about it more. Um, I also think, and um, kind of what Nate and I were talking about earlier, the the fact that the medical community, and how I do think we should be having more open conversation. Maybe we can't fix it, but we should be having more conversations about what can we do to offer the medical system support so that they can help patients more. What can we do to offer patients more? Like, we should be working together. I don't know. There's so many things I wish we were talking about. Maybe just talk. I just think we need to be talking.
I think there
And
are a lot of
sorry.
I'm just there are a lot of taboos with being human that fall into the disability, like even more so that we just don't like
Yeah.
to talk about. Like we don't in as a culture, we don't like to talk about poop and pee and sex
Yeah.
and nudity. And so when you get disabled, a lot of those sort of um,
And then you
insecure.
don't know who to talk to. Like, it's uncomfortable. It's like, And then people are uncomfortable if you talk about it.
But it's even more uncomfortable with a disability layered on top of pooping,
That's
peeing,
what I
sex,
mean. Yeah.
because all of a sudden I don't have a lot of control of those areas in my life. And I wish I had someone to talk about it with.
And well, you can talk to me about it, but I mean, we
I
talk
can
about
when
poop
I
and
can, and
pee.
I can. There's just some stuff that you will not understand, likewise for me, about my body as a disabled person.
Yeah,
I tell you about it and you can feel sorry for me about it, but you'll never
it's
understand it.
not the same because I'm a woman and you're a dude.
Right.
But that's why I'm glad you joined the male MS support group. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and that was my idea, or
Yeah.
it was my therapist's idea. Like, but my psychotherapist said that he wished he had suggested that because it's a great idea, and I was like, I know it's a great idea, but you weren't the one to suggest it. I just I didn't know what I was missing until I found like these MS groups. I was like, I just never really thought about this. It's weird. And a lot of the thing about the virtual groups is a lot of them are run by women, so they're very
Yeah.
women centric. So the men's
Yeah.
group is just completely different energy that I didn't know I was missing.
That's good.
Yeah.
And but even I've tried to ask professionals for help, like with intimacy, for tips because of back and hip issues and overheat, well, a whole world of issues for intimacy, and like ask physical therapists and doctors, and they're like, oh, I don't know. Um, and they're willing to try anything, but they're also kind of uncomfortable. Like they get embarrassed when you try to talk to them about it, and that makes me embarrassed for bringing it, but it also makes me a little hurt and frustrated and mad because I open up and I'm vulnerable and I'm willing to try to talk about this and go to help for somebody, and I feel shamed when they do that. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, in our society as a whole too, like anytime you try to be vulnerable about anything, it there's always this awkwardness.
yeah, there is, but I think taking the risk to be vulnerable is worth it, and the more we do it, the easier it is. And maybe if more people take those risks, we'll all get a little more comfortable. I think that's why I don't like the word ableism now. Like I understand why people are trying to create like lists of etiquette for dealing with people with disabilities. And I think that's great, but I also think it's can scare away people that are, quote unquote able-bodied, and we're already such an isolated group. They're already uncomfortable asking us questions to begin with, and questions is how they learn. So I would rather us, like I don't want to get in accusatory mode where we're like, this is what you're doing wrong and this is what you're doing. It turns people off. So I wish we could just focus on educational things in a very positive way versus, labeling, I don't know. That's just kind of my 2 cents on that. And usually the people I see posting this stuff or talking about that, using those words, aren't disabled themselves. Or I could be being completely, presumptive and assuming they're not because they have an invisible disability. So, and people with disabilities do that all the time. We make assumptions and mess up, and there's no way to please everybody.
In what ways do you think your podcast contributes to raising awareness about disabilities?
Well, I hope we're spreading words maybe about disabilities that people don't know about, but also disabilities that they have heard about, but maybe don't there have misconceptions about. So hearing people's true stories, like in the raw, as they want to tell it, not just, from a report or from something you can read on Wikipedia or something, like it's right. And I do think doing the internet search is important. But hearing people's real lived stories is different. And it's also like Nate and I talk about it all the time, but we realize, wow, like some people have the same disorders and their experience is completely different. So we may have people like we had somebody with traumatic brain injury, but we might have another person another season with traumatic brain injury, and their experience is going to be completely different, and that's important to share and raise awareness of. And that's my hope, along with the special topics, you know, providing information and awareness for those with disabilities and their families.
Yeah. I mean, it just shines light on disability in a way that I don't think gets a lot of attention. I think the best part of the podcast is it talks about this kind of stuff, and I don't think it gets talked about in a lot of circles. Like, there's a lot of stuff, I think I've seen a lot of testimonials about people that have conquered their illness, but not a lot of stuff about people who are in the middle of it. Like, it's different,
I think that puts pressure on people in the middle of it to conquer their stuff as well and feel bad because they haven't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I guarantee there are more people that haven't conquered their disability than there are that have. Like, I just think those kinds of people, although they are inspiring, they are outliers.
Well, and hearing their stories, like George, who is living a very fulfilling life right now, but hearing that he went through a crisis of faith, and we do try to keep open conversations where it's not all one way or another. There's a spectrum of what we live.
Right.
Is there any specific goals you have moving forward, or a message that you aim to convey through your podcast?
I just want to keep getting great guests on, and like what we were trying to contact Michael J. Fox and Selma Blair.
Yeah,
I literally
we gotta crack Hollywood. That's what's gotta happen. We've gotta get some real sick Hollywood people on. That's our goal.
But that's a good goal to have.
Michael J. Fox, a Selma Blair, Christina Applegate. Just get some sick people that are Hollywood.
There's a whole people that came out saying that they had Ehlers-Danlos. There's like a whole slew of people. Sia, I think, or maybe she has fibro, and then there's Billie Eilish has Ehlers-Danlos, and Halsey.
I thought Billie Eilish had Tourette's.
She may have that too. I don't know, but I know she has Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobility disorder. And Lady Gaga has fibromyalgia. So like getting the word, I messaged Tori Spelling over Instagram, and I'm sure that got blocked. But her daughter has hemiplegic migraines that came out in the news. But yeah, I think we just want to keep telling people's stories.
Yeah.
So when we share this, we need to start tagging Michael J. Fox, Christina Applegate, Lady Gaga.
Yeah, not going to stop until we've dominated the world. It's just world domination is our focus.
Take over the world. What's today, Nate? Take over the world.
Yeah. We're going to do today.
I'm kinky and you're the brain.
No, because you're the host. The host has to be the brain.
That's scary.
I could be a good pinky, just like, gosh, brain, what are we gonna do? I don't know. It's hard to.
We'll work on that. Okay.
We'll work on it.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining what is a great episode of Speaking in Spoons, a chronically ill podcast. And I was so blessed and excited and just can't put into words how great it was to be able to interview the interviewees.
Thank you, Josh.
Do your tagline.
Oh, And we'll see you next month for a month of love. Everybody want to join me? Save your spoons. You guys didn't join me. Save your spoons.
Save your spoons. So 1, 2, 3. Save your spoons.
Save your
Save your
spoons.
We're not getting it. All right, we'll just go.
If you want to contact us, please send a DM or email to speakinginspoons@gmail.com with any stories you have or would like to interview with us on any of our upcoming topics. And check out our website for all of our upcoming episodes and what's happening in the Speaking in Spoons community at www.speakinginspoons.com. Thank you for listening to Speaking in Spoons, and have a great day.